This is my natural way of playing video games. I love to play video games in this condition always, 100% of the time. There's no reason for this, especially. Oh, a triple. Boy, I'm glad I'm doing this in my favorite position. And there's no other reason to be doing this. Did I have something else to do that I was supposed to be doing? Am I trying to make some kind of clumsy? Can anybody even hear me? Oh dear, look at the time. Oh no. I'm supposed to be streaming right now. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh shit. Oh god. This is embarrassing. Oh god. You guys caught me in a moment of being indisposed with this thing that I'm really embarrassed to have, and not just trying to brag and show off that and try to make this totally relatable and be like, "Oh shit, nobody knows." Like, oh shit, you guys caught me in a moment of indisposed. I also have a Steam Deck now. It's fun. I'm playing Vampire Survivors. Not exactly the game to show off on one's handy, fancy new Steam Deck, as it is pretty lacking in the graphics department, but boy, the Steam Deck is still a real slick piece of hardware. I have the mid-tier one, so not the cheapest, not the nicest. 256 gigs of storage in this thing. That's the mid-tier level. Doesn't have a fancy glare-resistant screen, but it plays all my PC games, or a lot of them, real nice. Got it on Friday, and been more messing with it than playing with it. But that's kind of the story with the Steam Deck writ large. If you don't know, this is Valve's new portable. Valve, makers of Half-Life and your favorite PC game store, now make a handheld. And this is it. It's kind of wonderful. The Steam Deck. I'm here to answer your questions. It's like a Switch. You can just turn it off now. Very neat. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for anybody who was with us in the premiere. Super appreciate it. I think we had quite a few folks. So let's get ourselves started with the weed. Let's stop doing that dumb bit. We've got BVD, Kevin Wynyard. Hello, Kevin. I'm not sure if we've hung out before. Glad you're here, Kevin. We've got BVD, Stephanie, Alexander McPherson, Kevin Wynyard. Also asked, can we get married? Already taken, but I appreciate the offer. So let's get started with the bags, and let's make this first one for the first four people we've got here in chat. BVD, Stephanie, Alexander McPherson, which I think, Alexander, maybe you've been here before. I'm sorry if I've forgotten. And of course, Kevin Wynyard, who wants to marry me. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Let's get started with some Volcano Mags here. Hope everybody's Monday is going well. LSD Papa, welcome LSD Papa. I see it's nice to have you back. I saw your nice comments in the chat earlier. Appreciate it. BVD asks, how do you like it? Computer games on mobile. I like it a lot so far. BVD. I'm an old hat. I'm an old hat when it comes to console games and PC games of all kind. Been gaming on handhelds since the OG Game Boy. Got one for Christmas 1991, I believe. And while I haven't messed with it enough to give it a fully formed opinion yet, it's very fun to mess around with. It is really cool how open it is and how much Valve lets you just futz around with the stuff. Kind of the opposite of the Switch, the closest analog in handhelds right now. No pun intended if you're an Analog Pocket fan. But yeah, you can mess with any little tiny detail that you could ever possibly want on it. including, from the settings, granular settings in games to how much you want the fan to run and how much you want the battery to output and this, that, and the other. It's a little intimidating at times, but in the best kind of way. And I'm sorry, I realize that I don't have my chat open in the best way. If you guys will bear with me for just a second. Let's get switched over here. Cool. That'll serve us better, I believe. Yes. So loving the Steam Deck. Haven't messed with it too much, other than just looking at all the cool, neat options. I had and still have a Steam controller. From 2015, Valve made their own crazy controller at one point that had trackpads instead of analog sticks, and the Steam Deck does the same thing again, but gives you an option of both. Gives you the trackpads, which is such an interesting input mechanic that I have yet to utilize. Like, I know some people swear by them. I haven't tried any strategy games on the Steam Deck yet to see if they are better. But on the Steam controller way back when, I never found Civilization or any of those kind of games particularly easy to play on it, even though that's what those trackpads are nominally designed for. But again, it does look real cool and fun to play with. All right, let's move on chat here. Brandon says, hey, what's going on? Good to see you live. Well, thanks, Brandon. Glad you could hang out with us here. Let's get through this bag for our first 4 commenters. Almost done. LSD Papa asks, hey, Wheats, have you ever heard of Culture in Long Beach? Dispensary culture or just the concept of culture? Because yes, to both, maybe, but I'm not sure we are actually talking about the same thing here, LSD Papa. I want to make sure we're on the right page. What culture are you referring to? And maybe I can be more specific for you. LSD also says, thank you so much, man. It's always good to be able to catch your premieres and lives. Well, thanks, man. I'm always happy when you can be here hanging out with us. BVD says that they still have a Switch, so I may take your emphasis on how good it actually is. I have a Switch too. I actually have multiple Switches in my house. My partner and I play ours all the time. We're like the kids in the commercials. We'll take our Switches to restaurants and play Mario Kart and shit. We're weird. But in terms of how does it compare? Well, there's one thing that the Switch will always have that the Steam Deck will never have, which will make having a Switch maybe always more or less a necessity, and that is Nintendo games themselves. Of course, Valve and Steam never going to have any Mario releases, never going to have any Smash Brothers Mario Karts. And I still love my Switch. It is definitely a 5-year-old piece of hardware at this point. And there are times where I think to myself, boy, I would really prefer to play this on something more modern. But it's still the only place that you can go and play Smash Brothers on the go, and it's still an excellent experience. So, how does it compare to the Switch? Well, Switch, again, has Nintendo games, which is invaluable, but the Steam Deck feels like magic in comparison to it, especially when you are playing something that is available on both and seeing just how vastly it's improved on the Steam Deck. Take something like Rocket League. There's a Switch version of Rocket League. Compare it with the Steam Deck version, which compares just as favorably to the next-gen consoles of the PC version, and then the Switch version, which is an admirable effort, but, it's you can feel the deficiencies. LSD Papa says, I love the way you critique things very detailed. Well, thanks, man. It's very kind words. Maybe we'll talk some critiques, some non-weed things here on this live stream. Got some movies I really want to talk about, actually. Alexander McPherson asks, would you recommend getting the Volcano? BVD answers beneath and gives a really great, excellent answer to the question, and one that I heartily endorse, which is, if you really like vaping, or you're not particularly into concentrates, the Volcano is the way to go. The one big caveat there, let me move my chat here to the other side. Let's see if that is better, because I always wanted to do this, you know, get away from the weed parts. I'm here. Let's do it. Gotta go the other direction. Yes! Volcano is an excellent, excellent product. If, I'm going to switch it back. If you smoke a lot of flower, and as BVD pointed out, you don't do a lot of concentrates, or primarily concentrates, as it's not designed for that. Another huge, of course, caveat is it is very expensive. It's, you know, double the cost of many other really great vaping solutions. That being said, I've had mine for 6 years. It works as great as the day I bought it. At this point, it's $100 a year or so. Well, less than that. I think it was $500 when I purchased it. And while it still seems like a total extravagance, there's nothing else that I've ever purchased outside of incredibly, you know, really nice glass. And that, of course, has its own things to worry about. But outside of very nice glass, I've never bought anything in the world of weed that has lasted as long or is, you know, as in pristine as condition as it was the day I bought it as the Volcano. There's Germans, there's a reputation, reason they have a reputation for their engineering prowess, and you can see it on that Volcano. So if you're looking to make an extravagant purchase to up your weed game, I can heartily recommend it. But if you don't smoke a lot of flower and you don't have a whole lot of money to burn, you know, to invest, there are other options for $200 or $300 that, you know, will serve you very well, including products from stores in Bickle like their own Mighty, which I also love. It's a portable one, doesn't require being plugged in either. All right, well, I've got our first bag done. Let's get our second bag started. We'll get this one out for LSD Papa, and who else do we have? I think, well, yeah, we'll just give this whole bag for LSD Papa, who works at Culture, the dispensary he was asking about before. And he's recommends it and says, I'm gonna have to check him out. Let me give my quick Google again. Exactly where you guys are located. Oh, right there. Oh. You guys, it was the place called The Circle, or is that a different dispensary right there on the traffic circle? I think it's a different one. I'll have to check them out. LSD Papa, especially knowing we've got some somebody there who could give some excellent recommendations. And LSD Papa says a video review would be insanely appreciated. I do have a couple in my, I can safely say they're not coming out. But in the vaults, Wheats vaults, there are 2 aborted dispensary reviews. I've tried it in the past, and I kind of liked it, but I never found a really good hook. And especially, of course, obviously, can't really take cameras in dispensaries. I always wanted like an interesting hook and never found the right one. But maybe this is the time to reconsider. BVD says, I still enjoy the Switch, but as we advance, we will be getting some pretty cool technology. Yes, and let's Nintendo. It's about time for that Switch Pro or Switch successor. I assume at some point the Steam Deck will be directly competing with you, whether you want them to or not. All right, let's get this bag going. And then I really want to talk movies for a second. LSD Papa says, I've missed your movie reviews, or the cherry you'd pick and tell us you've been watching at the end of the videos. Well, I'm going to give you a 3-for-1 then, LSD Papa, with your bag, because I watched 3 movies this weekend. 2 are available to stream today. 1 is in theaters. All 3 of these movies are very thematically related. All 3 of them quite good and different enough that they are additive in terms of, even though they deal with very similar sort of things thematically speaking, which is overprivileged white rich kids and their inability to or have the well, I'm about to get start asserting my own opinions in. Anyways, the 3 movies that I would love to talk with you guys about are the newest one is available on Hulu right now. Just came out last weekend. It is called I Am Not Okay, starring Zoe Deutsch. It is a movie about a young lady. The movie starts with an incredible content warning that says this movie is about an unpleasant female protagonist or something to that effect, which I found just delightful and sort of really sets the stage for what's going to happen. But I'm Not Okay is about a young woman living in New York City and her fanciful blogging position. A lot of movies about young people that are working in media jobs in New York City. This movie takes that, and she is as insufferable as many of these people in these movies are made out to be. And in a moment of weed-infused, I don't know what you would call it, hysteria, weed-infused lust, weed-infused jealousy, she decides to fake a Parisian vacation. She uses her Photoshop skills to make herself appear as if she has gone vacation in Paris. So, of course, what happens is there is a huge terrorist attack in Paris while she is in vacation in Paris, while she is really in her New York City apartment. And in one of the locations that she is visiting, the terrorist attack happens to just transpire 10 minutes before her Instagram post of being there. And so it is the story of her being this heralded as this victim and hero of this awful thing that happened in Paris and using that fame to further her career for a thing that never happened. And I assume you can predict where the third act of a movie of this kind might go. It definitely goes there. And it is a very fascinating movie. There is some really compelling stuff about Gen Z. It has maybe the most optimistic take about our future and the future generations of the 3 movies I'll mention, but it is absolutely worth watching. And that movie, again, is called I Am Not Okay on Hulu, and it is a very tricky movie that nails a very, very hard to get tone about somebody lying being in a terrorist attack. The second movie I saw is the new horror movie from A24. They're the people who bring you all of the great horror movies, your Midsommars, your just every sort of wonderful, tiny indie horror movie from the past 4 or 5 years. Very likely it's going to have come from A24. why are they all escaping me at this moment? And this movie is called Bodies, 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 which is about a bunch of Gen Z millennials in a cabin in the woods style thriller, playing a game like Werewolf or Mafia. They call it Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And just like I won't reveal what happens in the third act if I'm not okay, I bet you guys can figure out very quickly what the plot of the horror comedy Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is about. If you've ever played Werewolf or Mafia, you might suspect that people actually start dying instead of just fake dying. And yes, that's what happens. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is actually a really well directed, really well shot movie. There's some incredibly tense sequences shot in practically no light later on. There's a big power outage. It's in the middle of a hurricane. Some really cool filmmaking stuff going on. But the biggest problem the movie has, even though I still really liked it and would recommend it, is it is very obvious, intensely obvious. It's actually, to me, but I generally pick up on these things pretty quickly. I knew the moment the first of our characters gets killed, what the giant twist would be the second it happened. And it really defanged the whole thing. Once you understand what the gimmick, what the director is trying to do, it leads the next bit of chaos to be neutered. Like you just don't, both in terms of the actual tension on the screen, and it's very odd to me. It was incredibly obvious, and once I figured it out, which was immediate, there was no way it wasn't going to resolve like this. Which not only took away from the well, okay, yes, now all the sort of scary parts are less scary because you figured this out, but more importantly, it kind of again defangs the actual satire and social criticism that the director was going for, which otherwise could have been pretty good. So, let me just real quick. All right, guys, I'm going to spoil Bodies, Bodies, Bodies for you. The new A24 horror thriller. I'm sorry, take a break if you don't want to, but I think it's, in order to really talk about the movie at all, you gotta know what the big twist is. So, maybe not. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't. But it's a whodunit movie. Who is the killer? And it is a movie about Gen Z. And it's about, not just about Gen Z, but just about how we all sort of eat ourselves. How the internet sort of turns us all into monsters that consume ourselves in order to, I don't want to give away too much, because maybe I'm not going to give away the twist. And maybe it was dumb to even say this much, but if you get the chance to see it, I wouldn't run out to theaters and see it. But if you see it on home video and you like social commentaries, it's really the first Gen Z satire that I know of, and the first one who really wants to take it seriously and not just make shitty jokes about TikTok and people not having the attention spans they once did. It handles the idea of, all right, let's take a look at the youngest generation in a serious way, even if it doesn't nail it. So that again was Bodies, 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 and Pete Davidson's in it. So everybody loves old Skeet Davidson. Last movie. And let me get to this bag that I've just been nursing. Last movie about young, rich people and death. Maybe my favorite of the three. This is a movie from 2018. Maybe 2017. No, 2018. The Last Role, starring my beloved Anton Yelchin. Not starring, he was just in it. Anton Yelchin. who died in 2016. Delightful little actor, dude. This was his last role. Thoroughbreds is about two friends, two high school aged friends, living at the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, wealth level, who try to hatch a plan to kill the piece of shit stepfather of one of the two girls. And one of the two girls is more or less just a straight up sociopath. But that's an admittedly fun premise right off the bat. But I also think it is the most well realized of the movies, and man, is it the best written and the best directed. There's some incredible show not tell there. The story as it is unspools at an incredibly confident, because there are things that the director holds back from you for quite a while. Some things that never reveals, that leaves a lot of things open for interpretation. But really trusts you to just all right, hold on, I'm going to tell this story in the way that it's meant to be told and not just sort of lay all my cards out at the beginning. Really wonderful movie, and if you like your Anna Taylor-Joy's, this is from before when she was super famous, like her first role after The Witch. And she is, if this movie came out right now, Thoroughbreds is the name again. Excellent movie. It's on HBO Max. The rules of the positions of the two girls would be switched because the sociopathic one is not played by Anna Taylor-Joy, but instead the girl from Ready Player One. Really, really, again, interesting, great movie. And the best thing about all of them is they are very short. None of them is over 100 minutes long, I don't think. So 3 movie recommendations, all very similar, and I liked them all. I'm Not Okay, Bodies, 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 and Thoroughbreds. Young women and death. Okay, I am so sorry for all of that. It was a log rant. Welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us, Tony. I saw you pop in. Sorry I missed you. LSD Papa out here saying that he smoking some live rosin, enjoying it, and it's super refreshing. And that he suggests again that you check out his dispensary if you are here in Long Beach, which is Culture. And that he also appreciate the reviews on Weed Maps. I will need to check them out. Brandon M says, you ever try any live resin products from Almora Farms? I've had plenty of things from Almora Farms, but I don't think I've ever actually had their live resin, Brandon. They have a lot of other, I've had flour from them, and I usually find it to be a very good value. So I would say, I mean, I've never done their live resin, but their flour seems to be a pretty decent value or decent quality for the value. So that's one data point for them. LSD Papa says that they have not seen Nope yet and that they think it looks so good. Well, I won't talk too much more about it. I did see Nope when it came out. And Nope, I will say, is the rare movie that the more I sit with it, the more I talk about it, the more I think about it, the more I do like it. I still think it's probably the weakest of Jordan Peele's 3 movies, but I definitely have a much higher opinion of it than when I first got out of the theater. Not that I hated it leaving the theater, I just was a little befuddled. But the more I think about it, the more I kind of like some of what was going on there. There's a lot to think about with Nope, which is already, far and away, leaps and bounds ahead of many horror movies. LSD Papa says, I think referring to one of the movies we're talking about, he says it kind of reminds him of Munchausen. I think that's what he phrased. Munchausen, usually Munchausen by proxy, is a condition where you poison a member of your family or a loved one that you are basically you are taking care of them and also making them sick for sympathy. And actually, that is a very, very great kind of analogy for it, LSD Papa. Yeah, that like desire for sympathy, and like seeking that, just everybody's pity almost. However, Munchausen by proxy is almost always like a mental illness and something that is, chosen. In I'm Not Okay, it was accidental. It was foisted upon her. She didn't choose to be this. Like, it just happened that she became this victim for a thing that didn't happen. But that, like, once she started getting the adoration and the online love, it is pretty similar response. Just like, well, and the worse it is, the better it is for me. Of course, Munchausen by proxy, you're poisoning usually a child or a spouse, not yourself, but that's neither here nor there. Well, I guess by proxy is always someone else. Terrible, terrible thing, Munchausen by proxy. And what a bizarre thing that it is, like diagnosable. That it's not just like a one-off, that there are a whole category of people that have that very specific desire. It's so weird to me. I almost wonder, in something that is so specific like Munchausen by proxy, how much of that is media influence? Like, if people didn't know that putting Drano in somebody's soup was an option to make them sick, how many fewer people would even do, like, there's always this fear in a lot of things, just by broadcasting abnormalcy, that you actually increase the likelihood of that behavior, spreading. And something like Munchausen by proxy, which just doesn't even make sense. Like, what could have gone haywire? What evolutionary purpose would there ever be for something like that? And there's so few poisons that we would know about naturally, that if we didn't have common poisons that you could sort of hide in small doses and give to people in a large time, what would people with Munchausen by proxy use instead? Or is it something that truly only exists because people have heard about it? I don't know. Okay. BBD says Midsommar was crazy. Yes, crazy, crazy, crazy. Just like Ari Aster, the director's first movie, the arguably even more insane Heredity. Can't remember which now. Yikes. Which BBD, if you have not seen and you could stomach the macabreness of Midsommar, Hereditary is arguably more disturbing, I think. But certainly worth a watch. Both of them are excellent. You're welcome for the reviews there, BBD. I hope you get a chance to check any of them out. And LSD Papa says, did you like Everything Everywhere All at Once? LSD Papa, I loved it. The only movie I've seen... No, I've seen 2 movies in theaters twice this year. But I had AMC A-list, so it's not like I paid more for it, because you just have 3 movies a week. One was Everything Everywhere All at Once, and the other one was Top Gun 2, or Top Gun Maverick, excuse me. And I had very divergent opinions on second viewings. I had pretty divergent opinions on the first viewings. Number 1 on Everything Everywhere All at Once the first time was, wow, this movie is incredible. it really takes our cultural fascination with the multiverse, and does something new and fresh and interesting with it. And while it is the prototypical, I've heard this phrase recently described as the millennial apology movie, it is the best of the millennial apology movies. It is a wonder. I loved it the first time. I was dazzled by it. And when I saw it 3 months later, those opinions were only strengthened and reaffirmed. And I think the movie is an unequivocal masterpiece and will be remembered probably as a classic in years to come. Top Gun 2, I thought the first time was, wow, that movie was pretty cool. It looked great. Some incredible sequences. But I think there's less going on here than people realize. And when I saw it again the second time, I thought, wow, this movie is almost shockingly underwritten at times, and does not really hang together much at all if you think about it for more than 2 minutes. But it's also Top Gun, and they high five on the beach, and it's cool. So, yes. I hope that answered your question. Shorm, Shorm. Welcome. I'm not sure if we've hung out before. Thanks for hanging out with us. Shorm asks, how many times do you reuse your volcano bag? Great question. Sorry it took me so long to get to it. And let me reuse it. A third time. And Shorm will give this back for you. And it looks like our Spanish-speaking friend there, who just joined us as well. Welcome back, by the way. Shorm. So the two ways I interpret your question is, how many bags do you get out of a single oven? How many times do you reuse like one chamber of weed? Or how many times do you reuse the actual bag before you throw it away? Because they get nasty and gross. For the first part, the ovens here, it's like this. There's the weed inside, still nice and still pretty decently green there. I do these, I would say, 3 to 5 times, depending on the weed, and most importantly, the vapor, what it looks like coming out of here. As long as it's still almost completely or opaque like this, I consider it still good. I'm probably going to get one more out of that oven this time, maybe 2. Between 3 to 5 is what I would say. Looking mostly again at the weed and the vapor density in here. And then how long do I use one of these bags before I say it's too gross to use? So they do get gross. Take a quick look here. You can see it kind of getting some resin and gunky buildup here at the base of the bag. I'm not sure how well that's coming up. But the more you do it, the nastier it gets. And I would say one of these lasts me probably about a month. If it's the thing that I'm primarily using. So they can last much longer or can go even quicker, really depending on, how often you use them. And I've never actually tabulated the number of uses a single bag has given me. Like I've never had a little counter, which would be an interesting experiment. But in about time, I would say, pretty heavy daily usage, I would keep one for about a month. And that's probably going to be a little bit more than some people would tolerate. It gets pretty nasty. This one's been here for about 2 weeks, maybe, and it's grossing enough quite nicely. LSD Papa says there's a really in-depth video about it on Wendigoon. What? Talking about Everything Everywhere All at Once. Which, if you've never seen, bonus cherry on top for you guys. If you really liked it, Everything Everywhere All at Once, I have a very, very, very fun recommendation for you. The largely forgotten last movie from the Daniels, or excuse me, just Daniels, no article. Gotta respect it. Love those guys, the directors, two guys with the name Daniel. And my wife told me this. They don't want to ever be referred to as the Daniels. It's just Daniels. Don't want any article there because they're not the Daniels. They're just a couple of Daniels. They don't want to have any claim over that. I gotta respect that. I love that. Anybody who has that level of humility endears themselves to me already. But Daniels' last movie is really excellent, way weirder even than Everything Everywhere All at Once. Really one of the weirdest movies ever made, but not in the weird David Lynchian, like this is gonna give me nightmares kind of weird, but in the delightfully, like this is almost like a adult children's book kind of weird. The movie is called Swiss Army Man, and it stars Paul Dano, aka the Joker, and Daniel Radcliffe, aka Harry Potter, and it is about and it came out in like 2015, 2016. So some of the details I have a little fuzzy, but a guy gets trapped on a desert island, Paul Dano, and he, instead of getting the volleyball that washes up ashore, or the message in a bottle, or the raft building materials, he gets a dead person. And that person is Daniel Radcliffe. The alternate title for Swiss Army Man is the Farting Boner Corpse movie. Because Paul Dano realizes quite quickly he's not an ordinary dead person. Harry Potter has a full-blown boner, and he farts like crazy, and you can control his body kind of like a skidoo, using his dick to as a rudder to like steer him, and his farts to blast him. And of course he can cause his arms to karate chop, bunch of other bodily functions he can get him to do. It's wonderful. The movie is called The Swiss Army Man, and it looks like somebody mentioned that the ending was hilarious and so cute. It has a very, very interesting ending. Really swings for the fences, and you have to be comfortable with those ambiguous endings, but I loved it. And glad to see BVD that you enjoyed Swiss Army Man as well. The best farting boner corpse movie you're ever gonna see. Tony Dates. Tony says the Barbara Streisand effect, perhaps. I actually missed what that was in reference to. Cannot remember. But the Barbara Streisand effect, as Tony is pointing out, is just the concept of when you try to bury something on the internet, you tend to do the opposite, which is to make that thing bigger than it ever would have been, which got its name from, of course, Barbara Streisand, who very early in the internet's history tried to have some pictures of her mega mansion taken down, and instead of like the literally one person who ever looked at her photo of her mansion, she had like millions of people that ended up looking at them, all from the act of saying, no, you shouldn't be able to do this, which of course then gets people going, well, I want to see this if somebody's trying to hide it. Very powerful thing on the internet, the Streisand effect. As a lot of very powerful people have sort of run headlong into over the years. Let's get this third bag finished, and then I've got a dab to do for all our folks here in chat, like Tony and our new friend, Josh. Josh, welcome, says, Josh, that movie is so wonderful. I wish it was available to stream somewhere. Oh no, I had no idea. That is such a tragedy. I didn't realize it wasn't available streaming on anything at the moment. That is, of course, in reference to Swiss Army Man, I think. And it is a wonderful movie. Uh-oh. Is my stream frozen? Still looks okay. Alrighty. Let's go get a dab going here. And then it looks like I'm all caught up on chat. Anybody throws out a cool topic, we'll talk about it. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about, oh shit, something I already had planned. But I can't remember at the moment. You want that? All right, here is our dab. Pretty healthy. This is going to be for Tony and Josh. If and anybody else who joined us that in case I happen to miss, thanks for hanging out with us. Here we go. Wonderful. Hailing Mike. You guys will excuse me for just a second. I'm going to kick my dog out. She's getting very vocal. Oh dear. I fucked that up. Forgot to close the door behind me. She ran right back into the office. So maybe we'll still hear more from old New during this stream. Alrighty. Wow, that was a big dab. What was my conversation topic that I had all picked out already? Oh, yeah. I've got a visual aid. I'm not a theft by nature. Never shoplifted anything. Certainly never anything that I knew about. I may have unintentionally shoplifted something at some point in my life. Try to not commit any kind of theft that would ever have any kind of an negative impact on people. Theft's a pretty bad thing. Well, if unless there is reason to commit theft, it's not great. However, all that is just wind up for the thing where somebody then says, I don't commit this bad behavior, but I'm talking about it for some reason. And that reason is I do commit this bad behavior on occasion. And guys, guess what? I do steal on occasion. What do I steal? I steal signs. I love stealing signs, not out of people's yards or something that's like put a lot of individual or custom work into. I steal mass-produced litter signs, and also crazy people notes that are stapled to things, or left places. I love notes from people who are. I love just often find notes here on Long Beach put on telephone poles written by people who are experiencing clearly quite bad traumatic things. There are a lot of people in Long Beach, or maybe one person who writes frequently about being a victim of gang stalking, which is a mental illness that some people experience, that they believe they are being stalked by huge numbers of people constantly. And it's a, much like our earlier discussion, it seems like a recent mental illness phenomenon, and one that people tend to get after hearing about it. Not saying that doesn't make it real. Let me be very clear about that. I'm not doubting anybody who says who has this as a mental illness. Not at all. I think things like gang stalking or whatever example we were using earlier, when people say that they experience those things, I believe them 100%. I am worried, though, that maybe sharing those beliefs with others or on the internet may cause other people to experience them as well. Not doubting that they do have those experiences. So, again, I like stealing signs. Usually, I love stealing signs that are like basically people put out that they shouldn't put out, that are kind of like litter advertisements, shit from like real estate agents or home flipping sales. I hate all that garbage. And sometimes you get some really incredible ones. And this one, I'm discovering very recently, is a big giant criminal conspiracy in the state of California writ large. And I thought it was just some local nut job. Well, what am I talking about? I stole one of these fine babies from a street corner. Don't anybody call this number and please tell them I stole this. This is insanity. It's truly craziness. These all popped up in Long Beach earlier this week with the auction on Sunday. This is a notice of a government seized property and certified exceptional wealth collection. At this one auction, they're going to have whatever Patek Philippe is, just fine jewelry as a category, Cartier, Rolex is plural. The only thing that's plural, well, I guess jewelry is also plural. And then the singular, they only have one Picasso, one Brainwash, which Brainwash, by the way, guys, is the guy that Banksy accidentally created in the excellent documentary Exit Through the Gift Shop. And of course, a single Monet. It's madness. There were like dozens of these. Stole one because I wanted to have one forever because it's fucking nuts. It's craziness. And then I actually took a picture of it and sent it to some of my friends, like, oh, check out this crazy ass night I stole. And they're like, oh my God. You know about this? And I was like, what? My friend lived up in San Francisco and they had this a couple weeks ago. It's a big, giant, of course, massive scam where they're trying to scam rich people into buying stuff that they believe came from other rich people. But it's just all, of course, a big scam. I thought it was madness, but it's just a scam. But it's a great sign. Love to have it. I'm going to put it up on a wall at some point because who doesn't want, reminder of the auction that they missed out on, missing the one Picasso and the one Lamborghini. They got one Guinea, multiple Rolexes, one Monet, zero mayonnaise. Well, they do have some mayonnaise, but that is only in the crab dip. Anyways, let's do that fourth bag from our oven. Thanks, everyone, for listening to my about stealing signs. I've had a lot of fun on this live stream. We've had some great topics. Like, oh, I might have just destroyed this bag. You got to be careful with these two things in close proximity. More than one bag, including one on a live stream, was killed by hitting that coil there. Incredibly thin plastic, incredibly thin floppy plastic that is inflating, thus making it floppier, plus hot, hot, hot coil equals lots of sad nights. Mouthpiece, here we go. BBD says, I remember seeing stop signs in people's back rooms in the 90s. I love street signs. I wish I had more ability. I never don't have the courage to steal any of them. I came close once at an intersection where I knew that they were going to be replacing the signs soon, like that week with new updated ones. And even that one, I was like, I chickened out. It was the street I used to live on. But I love that. I love old signs, both street signs and then just common traffic signs, stop signs, yield signs. I love old signage in general. I love, I'm not like particularly, have any kind of aesthetic, but man, I love old neon signs and just ancient signs in general. I don't know why. There's something about it that I just find them so appealing. Not that is similar to those kind of signs, as you said. These are signs of madness. Tony asks, do I believe in ghosts? Interesting question, Tony. Tony says that he used to believe those ghosts odd cam videos, but now I know it's easy to fake. Well, Tony, my answer is practically the same as yours, but no, I don't believe in ghosts in any form. However, I don't think that every image of a thing that is interpreted as a ghost is actually faked or done in bad faith. I think a lot of things that not everything that is said to be supernatural, while those things are not, I don't ever believe them to be supernatural. I don't always think that they're like malicious hoaxes, like especially when it comes to photography, and especially when it came to film photography. There were so many ways for things to go haywire in that process, whether in the actual taking of the photograph or, of course, even more in the developing of said photograph, that could produce all kinds of weird artifacts and images that it's very easy to see why people who already had a predilection into believing things in the supernatural thought that the thing they might see is supernatural. None of those things are like actually like people trying to deceive people. Sometimes they're just weird glitches, weird artifacts in, the medium. Not that they're ever supernatural. I guess no, I don't believe in anything like ghosts or where does supernatural cut off? Because I think pretty much anything that would go under the umbrella of what anybody would commonly define as supernatural, I would not believe. Uh, Not that I'm 100%. I do think that there are unexplained phenomenon, and I tend to believe people more when they say they see weird things, that they're not just faking or clout chasing, but that our perceptions are weird. There are all kinds of reasons for people to have distorted views, perceptions, beliefs, and how all those things can, compound into believing you're seeing ghosts or whatever. You know, I don't disbelieve everybody who says they have seen a ghost. Like, if somebody tells me that they believe in ghosts and that they have seen ghosts, I genuinely believe that they believe that they've seen ghosts. And I think that's the most diplomatic way to say that. And I'm not trying to be cruel. I just believe people in general. I don't believe that there are. I am certain that they never saw anything that is truly a ghost, but I don't think most people who say that they see things are lying or saying that in bad faith. I think that they just have a different threshold for what they interpret as supernatural phenomenon or paranormal phenomenon than what I do, whose threshold is. There is no threshold because I'll just assume that I am current, like, my assumption, and of course this is never true and you can never actually run this test. There is no way to ever do this test exactly, but I would hope that if I ever saw something that I was like, oh my God, that is evidence of something supernatural, like a ghost, I truly believe in myself enough to think that then I would go, okay, I am hallucinating. I'm going through some kind of drug trip. I am dreaming, or I am experiencing some kind of, break in reality, whether it's mental health or what, drug induced, something like that. I don't actually even think I'm capable of having something where I would think that something is a supernatural experience. I truly believe that I would think that I am hallucinating or have gone tits up. Oh, that's dead. Just really, kick the rocker. Is that still dead? Whatever the safe way of saying I've gone fucking nuts is. I think I would assume that first. But that's also just because I don't actually think my brain has whatever part or whatever, of all the systems, I don't think we're ever going to find one place in the brain that's like, oh, this is the spiritual area. It's never that easy. It's always, all these things are always located in multiple parts of the brain, many of different areas. So, but I think at some point we will find some common pathways in the brain that will say, like, this is the area of the brain that allows for spiritual experiences. Because it does seem to be that there is something hardwired in humans to have something spiritual, something that feels beyond comprehension. It seems to be almost a universal in humans and a universal in human culture that I think we'll find something somewhere, some structure, not in one particular area of the brain. We're not going to find it all in the frontal cortex. We're not going to find it in Wernicke's area or whatever. Well, that's actually, it is what I'm talking about. We'll find 4 or 5 different parts of the brain working in conjunction that give some kind of spiritual, the sense of what we call a spiritual experience. And I am confident, I'm just so confident. I don't have that. It just doesn't exist in me. It sounds naive and almost conceited on my part to say this. I understand. I feel gross saying it. but I just do not think that I have in my head the capability to interpret things as anything other than like this is can all be explained logically and reasonably, with enough thought and explanation, and everything can be explained away. Like I just don't know if I have the ability to have, again, spiritual or supernatural experiences. It seems at this point unlikely to me. Nobody believes this because it seems incapable of being true, but just to lay your cards on the table, I grew up in East Tennessee, very incredibly religious part of the world. Went to a public school, but every teacher ever asks you what church you went to. I never went to church growing up, which I think helped a lot in this, either never developing this or not at least preventing its development or whatever. But I mean, it wasn't until I was in 6th grade, by the time I was like, I don't think I believe in God to somebody, was the first time I ever said it. But I did not believe, I just could not, by the time I was in second grade, I just did not believe, like, I couldn't even understand the idea of believing in God. It didn't, like, it just couldn't make sense to me. Either from the, like, well, does that mean all of the other ones are wrong? And then even, like, the feeling, like, the idea that people were like, I grew up and people were like, you get to go have eternal life worshiping another human being. Is there anything more magical than that? And me thinking to myself, like, dog, that sounds fucking awful. I could not think of any way I would rather less spend eternity than just worshiping some dude that I don't give a shit about. Anyways, I'm getting really off the rails here. But it was such a good question, Tony. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't think I can. Okay. Derek, welcome, Derek. Thanks for joining us again, my friend. Happy to have you. We've got a friend here from a Ukrainian friend. Well, I guess I'm not sure if they're in Ukraine at the moment. So glad you are joining us. Hope all is well with you and your loved ones, or as well as can be. My God, man. I hope this provides some measure of relief and enjoyment for your day. Really appreciate you being here. And again, hope all is going well with you. Rum21 says, agnostic atheism is what you're trying to describe. I think that is a absolutely valid description of my beliefs. Would describe myself as an atheist almost, but using the caveat agnostic atheist, more like a Dawkins, to say like, well, it's hard to inject a little bit of humility in there, because I'm not sure I would be a classical. I'm not sure I'm actually a classical atheist, because I think a classical atheist assumes that there is absolutely no kind of a creator. And I'm not sure that's the case. I think it's almost certain that we do have some kind of a creator, not a god, but something in a reality, one reality level up from us, that is simulating our existence for whatever purpose. I tend to not be able to find enough faults in the we are a simulation hypothesis to go with it. I mean, well, okay. There is one, and it is my biggest one, but I don't think it's actually necessarily totally mutually exclusive to have both of these competing views. And I have never, ever, ever seen a good enough argument to totally jettison the Boltzmann brain hypothesis. If you're a longtime Wheats man, you know that the Boltzmann brain is my favorite hobby horse alive. There's nothing in this world I love more than Boltzmann brains. I can't ever stop thinking about Boltzmann brains in some ways, shape, or form. We're really high because we always go straight to the Boltzmann. Yes, I assume that I don't actually even exist, to be honest. I assume that I'm just you, me, this chat, this map that I'm looking at that shows the address for Culture Dispensary that our friend works at is just a flash of into existence in a infinitely expanding quantum foam. I'm basically just a bunch of potassium and sodium and some carbon atoms, all that flashed into existence, arrange themselves into having this thought pattern that I'm having at this particular second, just whatever thoughts are in my head right now, and then I'm flashed out of existence, never to be seen or heard from again. I think that's the most possible explanation for what is who I am. Of course, I don't live my life like that, because how could you? I live my life as if I'm a real human being, and that everything exists and that actions have consequences, because there is no alternative. But really, I know that I'm just a less than a nanosecond flash of existence, an arrangement of quantum particles that perfectly align themselves to have this experience for again, there's no way to a Planck second of existence that my life would be. Not that it is a life. This experience. Now, the only argument that really has any weight against the Boltzmann brain, in my mind, is the ontological one, which is basically the fact that you would be a Boltzmann brain that flashes into existence, that realizes it's a Boltzmann brain, makes that less likely even than the fact that you're an actual living, existing, breathing person. And there's some disquieting elements like that. That argument does hold some weight. Like, it would seem unbelievably, insanely, horrifically, cosmically, wild for the chances for something to flash into existence, and then to also recognize that that is what it is doing. But is it really actually truly less than everything that could have the infinitely branching set of splitting moments that led to this moment in this conversation right here, right now? I don't know. And I don't believe anybody who says they know what that math would be. It's impossible to calculate, but who knows? Let's try to go a whole month without mentioning a Boltzmann brain. It'll be tough. But we'll see. Sorry, everybody, I'm so far behind on chat. Brum21 says, I think our brain is much more powerful than we comprehend. Every supernatural occurrence is most likely explained by the person's brain manifested the vision. Yes, Brum21, you get it exactly. Most people who have supernatural experiences are not lying. They're telling the truth. They really experience that. But that does not mean that what they experience is the thing that actually happened. Just because you experience it doesn't mean it is the objective truth. It means that our brains are, as Brum21 put it, more powerful than we comprehend. That is such an understatement. There's It can pull all kinds of devious tricks on us. Unbelievable devious tricks, including convincing ourselves that we're not even real. Like, what evolutionary purpose would a brain ever have to want to come up with the conclusion that it doesn't actually exist? I don't think there is an actual evolutionary purpose. It's just the consequence of having a structure this complex. Like, you can't have a thinking apparatus that is this multifaceted and not have it do weird, funky things. Not do things that aren't counterproductive. I think it would be impossible to ask our brains to do things that aren't counterproductive. It would be just too hard. Okay, Bellerfon says, I'm coming back to Slay. Well, welcome, Bell. I'm not sure what you're coming back to Slay. I hope Slay the Spire, best video game of all time. Mechanically, yes. Mechanically, that is true. Slay the Spire is the best video game ever. If you're coming out to Slay anything else, I'd love to know what. Thanks for hanging out with us. And I'm sorry I butchered your name. Welcome, Canna Man Goat. Happy 429. What's the latest you celebrated a 420 time? What is the furthest you can get out from 420? Is it 419? Or is it 12 hours? No, it would be 6 hours. And then again, it depends on what you mean past. So is 419 the latest you can get from 420? I think the argument is, I would say yes. But the other way you could go is that you would say it's like 10, 20 or whatever, 6 hours ahead. But I like the other one better. Dr. SJ, welcome, Dr. SJ. So glad we could see you before we have to say goodbye. And let's see what he says. I'm sure it's going to be a doozy. It's always wonderful. Always puts a smile on my face. Dr. Smegma Jones says, my dad used to get mad at me for watching your weed videos. Oh man, your pops. He says, but now, instead of grounding me, we lighted it up and watch your streams together. Haha, that'd be just kidding if I had a dad. It would be cool if he had a dad. Like every Dr. SJ comment, what a roller coaster. What a roller coaster. Let's chart this one out. I think it deserves a whole, if I had some software, a flow chart. Let's at least go up and down this ride that Dr. SJ took us on. And also, let me just back up and say that I think Dr. Smegma Jones is a truly wonderful storyteller. It takes talent to tell a story with a hook and then give a twist that he so routinely does in so few words. And the fact that he does it every stream delights me to no end. You're the John Darnell of YouTube comments. Love having you here. My dad used to get mad at him for watching weed videos. So like, we're already on his side here. He's got a dick father, piece of shit dad, who gets mad at him for doing the thing that we all love best, which is watching our videos. And then, so we're all keyed up. But guess what? Dr. SJ says, well, we've turned it around. And now, instead of getting pissed and grounding him, they blaze it up and they watch it together and they're bonding over our videos. So we've gone through this incredible roller coaster so quickly. You know, we were pissed at his dad who was keeping us away. And then we realized that Dr. SJ is such a good kid, and both that his dad is, a reasonable enough guy that they were able to come together, hang out, and bond over this thing that they originally had. There was consternation there. And so we're all having the warm and fuzzies. I know at this point, tears were coming. I think I flipped you off. I didn't mean to. I was getting the warm and fuzzies, starting to get choked up. And then Dr. SJ comes and just takes out our knees underneath of us, or whatever the thing is you do with knees and knocking people over. And he says, that would be cool if he had a dad. He went from having a dick dad to a cool dad to no dad in 3 sentences. Amazing. Thank you. We're going to have to do a final dab for that. And of course, all of our other friends here, including Bell, Brum, Canna Man Goat, and anybody else that I missed. Canna Man Goat says, anyone gonna answer my darn question? What was the last time I saw the latest you celebrated at 420 time? I'm gonna say 419. I'm sure I've smoked weed at 419 before. And 419 is as far from 420 as you can get using our 24-hour scale or even 12-hour scale. Because you've gone either 11 hours and 59 minutes or 23 hours and 59 minutes since your last 420. I don't abide by that. Well, it's just 1 minute to the next. That's cheating. I hope that answers your question. Canna Man Goat says, what about the Mandela effect? What about the Mandela effect? Isaac Gonzalez says, my man just popping in to let you know I farted about 30 minutes ago. Starting to let you know so late, bro. Have a good day. It is late, but I'm still appreciative of the knowledge. Isaac, unfortunately, this dab, no, it was for everybody. It's primarily for Dr. Smegma Jones and his dick dead dad. But your fart is definitely getting a place in my lungs. Disgusting. That was really sick, and I regret saying it. Nah, it's kind of okay. It's funny. But it wasn't intentional. So, let's get this last dab going. And then what about the Mandela effect? Well, it's a thing. Mandela effect, if you don't know, it does seem to be the internet's favorite thing. Is the really cool. I mean, there's a reason it gets everybody super, I don't know, keyed up, because it is disquieting. The Mandela effect is disquieting. I really think it should probably be the Berenstain Bears effect, the Berenstain effect instead of the Mandela effect, because I think more people are associated with that than Mandela. Mandela effect is the collective delusion that a thing in our past or has been misremembered. Named for Nelson Mandela, who many people remembered as having died in prison and not as of having become the president of South Africa as he did. This is one that never happened to me. Definitely remembered him being president and getting released from jail. It was the big thing. It was the thing with Nelson Mandela. So I don't quite get it. The one that most gets people most often is the Berenstain Bears book, which is the very popular children's books series is spelled differently than everybody realized. And this gets people really disquieted. There are a lot of, possible explanations for these things. I don't think any of them are going to be totally satisfactory to somebody who is convinced that something is the way that it was when they were growing up. But it's so new that I don't think psychology has had enough time to study it enough to know why it makes us so uncomfortable and why they feel so sticky. Like, no, I am so certain that the Fruit of the Loom logo had a cornucopia. I'm certain it had that there. Like, I assume, again, a confluence of events, of factors. But I don't think of the Mandela effect as any reason to assume that we are quantum tunneling or dimensional hopping or any of that kind of stuff. But it is, again, there is a reason it is super, gets really people talking, because it does, there's a spookiness to it when one hits you really hard. Even though I'm, certain it is just a thing that we never really knew that we had before. this collective sense of feeling something the way that something was when it wasn't. Oh, actually, you know what? I take it back. I'm gonna do this after this, and then I really do have to go. There is a huge Mandela effect that everybody had throughout the culture, and it existed before the term, and nobody realized it was one, and thus it wasn't as weird because it didn't have like a label to it. The internet hadn't helped it proliferate as much, and that's from Star Wars. That is the Luke, I am your father. Spoilers for Empire Strikes Back. Of course, that's not what Darth Vader says. It's no, I am your father. Whatever he actually says. I can't remember. It's just been so ingrained in my brain the other way. But people knew that for years, of course. That wasn't actually the way it went. Before the term Mandela effect was around. And I find that one, while it does have that same level of stickiness, people like convinced that it was that way, it doesn't bother them as much as the others. And that is also curious. Like when you show them a clip or they rewatch the movie and see that Darth Vader doesn't say, Luke, I am your father, they aren't as weirded out as, realizing it was spelled Berenstein Bears or whatever. Last dab. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us. All right, and then let's wrap up here. A couple last things. Mandela effect. I said it hasn't been studied enough. That is very true. But even when it starts getting studied, because somebody's going to start studying it, because I assume, because it is a fun thing to talk about on the internet, there'll be research dollars available to look at it. So, when somebody starts doing studies on the Mandela effect, I would be incredibly skeptical of whatever results come out. Psychology is be very skeptical of anything you read about psychology. Like, be so incredibly skeptical about everything you read about psychology, including the huge blockbuster things that, you read about in your Psych 101 textbooks, your marshmallow studies, your fucking Stanford prison experiments, your Milgram experiments, all that shit's just horse cockery. We still teach it even though we know it's all bullshit. I don't understand it. But, so, whenever somebody comes out with a shocking sounding conclusion about why we experience the Mandela effect, take it with a huge grain of salt, because it's probably not true. Because there is a concept in academic studies called the half-life of knowledge, which is much like half-lives in elements or isotopes. Like, how long does it take before 50% of this has transformed? And the half-life of knowledge, it's how long does it take before half of the studies in this field have become irrelevant or overturned or contradicted in some major way. In psychology, it's 5 years. The half-life knowledge is only 5 years. Every 5 years, half of everything in psychology is moot, more or less. Which should just give you more pause about it as a discipline writ large than it seems to do. Don't know why. The only one that is worse is economics, but that's because it has a half-life knowledge of 0, because there is no knowledge to be gleaned in the study of economics, except where the field of psychology and economics collide, behavioral economics, and there we know it can't be better than any ways than 50%. So we got some cheap shots here in the end as my voice goes on psychology and economics. We talk about Boltzmann brains. Boy, it has been some just our favorite topics. I've loved it, guys. Let me hit some of these last things on chat. I'm sorry, Can Man Goat, that I missed so much. It has been my bad. I'm not certain, and please, Can Man Goat, I do not want to feel. Please don't feel like if you experience the Mandela effect or you're convinced that it is. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a dumbass. Our motto here on. Wow, what a fascinating question. Jesus Lord, what a fascinating question from Can Man Goat right before I go, which is, what do you think of the validity and reliability of the diagnosis and classification of schizophrenia? Jesus Lord, that's such an excellent question. I do need to go. I really have to go. But that is a great question. One that I am certainly not qualified to answer in any way, shape, or form, but one that I do have some thoughts on because very relevant. And I don't know what to think about the idea of objective mental illness as something like schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder. It seems like they are real, and it seems like there might be biological or physical markers in the brain, but I don't know. And why are they rising at such incredible rates? Like, why is schizophrenia seem to be on the rise? I don't know. Is it related to the rise of mass psychogenic illness writ large? I don't know. It's fascinating and terrifying. I gotta go. Great question. Oh shit. Oh my god. Carl says, what about the power hitter? Is anyone using this anymore? I'm not sure, man. I don't even know what that is. Is it a smoking device? My bad. I don't have one. But I hope somebody does, Carl, for you to answer. Macabre or Macabre, I'm not sure which. Thanks for hanging out, man. I saw your very, very nice comment. It almost embarrassed me, so I can't read it aloud because it was so flattering and nice. I really appreciate it, though. But I will answer your question super quickly. It says, what are your top 3 books you would recommend reading, like your 3 of your deepest, most powerful, knowledgeable books, advanced material? I will give you, off the top of my head, 3 pieces of nonfiction that have definitely changed my life, for sure, 100%. I can't say that these would be my favorite, but these are just off the top of my head. Number 1 would be The Beginning of Infinity by David Deutsch. Unfortunately, I have heard that some libertarian people have kind of misappropriated some of the stuff he has said. He is a University of Cambridge computer scientist / philosopher / cosmologist. It's still maybe the most fascinating book I've ever read in my life. I couldn't recommend it to people more highly. The Beginning of Infinity, David Deutsch. Check it out. Anything by Nicholas Nassim Taleb, the guy who wrote Black Swan, or a lot of great books. You can read any of them. They're all excellent. Some people find them really abrasive. I find them to be about as right as anything diagnosing economic issues. I think people just hate the fact of how right he is. And then lastly, the dearly recently departed David Graeber's book, Debt, The First 5,000 Years, a book about debt and money and the point of money and the point of debt and the point of obligation. And David Graeber is a recently departed anthropologist, one of the most brilliant writers, one of the most brilliant thinkers. Debt isn't, beloved by many, but not appreciated by enough. It'll change the way you think about so many things. Check it out. 3 off the top of my head. So much. It has been so wonderful hanging out with everybody. Um, I totally agree with you. By the way, Canaman, that there is probably tons of misdiagnosis going on and bias, especially in things like schizoaffective disorder. I think that's absolutely happening for sure. I'm not qualified to talk about it enough. Seriously, don't listen to me. But I really appreciate talking to you about it, and I hope we can talk more about it in the future.